The Kytharian homeworld buzzed with the energy of industry. Towering factories clawed at the sky, belching thick clouds of steam. The air hummed with the rhythm of metal on metal, a cacophony of hammers striking anvils and gears grinding into place. This was a world forged for war. In the heart of a sprawling factory, historian Sarnok stood surrounded by towering shelves of data crystals. His segmented exoskeleton gleamed in the harsh light, filtering through the grimy windows. He moved with purpose, his mind racing with thoughts of the past. Ancient texts contained warnings of demons that once roamed the stars, tales of terrifying beings capable of great destruction and cunning. Sarnok's amber eyes flicked back to the council chamber, where the ruling elite dismissed his findings. They scoffed at the myths. To them, these were the stories of primitive times, not worth their attention. Fables, they would say, of a bygone era. Sarnok felt a pang of frustration. He believed the stories carried weight. His fingers brushed against a data crystal, smooth and cool. He longed to share its contents, but the council only respected strength. They valued weapons and machines. To them, history was a chronicle of victories. The Kytharians had built their empire through relentless conquest, their honor bound to war. Suddenly, an alarm blared, cutting through the factory's rhythmic noises. The council's faces grew serious. A distress beacon had been detected. It sought an unfamiliar human ship stranded in a nearby asteroid field. Sarnok's heart raced. They hesitated, intrigued yet wary of the humans. In their minds, humans were insignificant, their ships mere toys compared to Kytharian might. Yet there was an undeniable allure in their boldness. A small crew navigating treacherous rocks, fighting for survival. Sarnok leaned forward, eager to speak. He argued that understanding these humans might reveal truths about their own history. What if they are the demons? He urged, his voice steady. What if their past is a warning worth heeding? The council quieted, considering the implications. Finally, with reluctant agreement, they decided to investigate. A small fleet would retrieve the human crew. Sarnok felt a surge of excitement. This was a chance to uncover the truth, to explore what lay beyond the surface of their assumptions. As the Kytharian ships prepared for launch, the air crackled with anticipation. The metallic scent of fuel mixed with the tang of ozone. Warriors clad in armor moved with purpose, their segmented bodies shining. Engines roared to life, vibrating beneath Sarnok's feet. In the distance, the crimson sun dipped low on the horizon, casting long shadows across the factory floors. The ships launched into the black void, engines blazing, leaving behind the comforts of their forge world. Inside the lead ship, Sarnok watched the stars zip past. Each distant point of light beckoned with possibility. He thought of the myths, the tales of demons that had been dismissed. What if they were not so far from the truth? As they neared the asteroid field, the tension was palpable. The crew prepared for the mission ahead. Sarnok felt a mix of dread and hope. What awaited them in the field of rock and metal? The ship trembled as it entered the field. Jagged asteroids floated like ancient monoliths, each one a testament to the chaotic history of the galaxy. Inside the cockpit, the hum of machinery filled the air, a comforting rhythm amidst the uncertainty. They spotted the human ship, battered but functional. It hung there, surrounded by debris. Sarnok's heart raced. The Kytharians had always prided themselves on their strength, but here they faced a new kind of challenge. The humans had fought to survive against overwhelming odds. As they initiated the docking sequence, Sarnok pondered the humans' plight. What stories did they carry? What unique traits had allowed them to endure? His thoughts drifted to the archives, to the warnings of demons. The Kytharians were warriors, yes, but they held a rigid view of strength. They respected power and technology, not the spirit of survival that humans seem to embody. Would they recognize this strength in the crew they were about to rescue? Metal clanged, as the airlock opened. Sarnok stood at the threshold, heart pounding. The moment of truth was at hand. The Kytharians were stepping into the unknown. Would they dismiss the humans as they had dismissed history, or would they find something far more profound waiting for them? In that instant, Sarnok felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps this meeting could unravel the threads of myth and reality. Perhaps he would discover that the demons spoken of in the archives were not just monsters, but reflections of humanity's strength and resilience. As he prepared to greet the human crew, Sarnok knew one thing: the path ahead would change everything. The Kytharians might learn that the greatest strength was not just in might, but in the courage to understand. And that was a lesson worth pursuing. The metallic scent of heated alloys filled the air on the Kytharian rescue ship. 1,000 distant clangs echoed in the background, a reminder of their homeworld's relentless industrial heart. Sarnok stood at the helm, watching as the human ship was slowly pulled into the docking bay. Pale light flickered through the panels, illuminating the faces of his fellow warriors. They were a mix of curiosity and skepticism. The tales of the demons stirred in Sarnok's mind. He fought against the tightening grip of fear and doubt. Outside, the human crew came into view. They emerged in a chaotic rush. Their movements were erratic but full of energy. Sarnok noted their varied clothing, a kaleidoscope of colors unlike the muted tones of Kytharian armor. Captain Ilara stood at the forefront. Her dark eyes sparkled with determination. Despite her small stature, she projected an unwavering resolve. This was not a creature of fear, but one of courage. As the crew approached, Sarnok's warriors tensed. They instinctively reached for their weapons. This human force was unarmed, but the Kytharians felt a strange energy radiate from them. Sarnok took a breath, reminding himself of his mission: to understand these humans, not to destroy them. The humans exchanged glances, sizing up the formidable Kytharians. Ilara stepped forward, her voice steady. "We're not here to fight," she said. Her words echoed softly in the metal chamber. "We need help." Sarnok motioned for his warriors to lower their weapons. The air pulsed with tension as he moved closer to Ilara. Her presence challenged everything he had been taught. Instead of arrogance, she presented a different kind of strength. It stirred something deep within Sarnok, a flicker of curiosity. What were these humans truly like? During the next few hours, Sarnok and Ilara exchanged stories. She spoke of their journey through the asteroid field. They were explorers, not conquerors. Her crew had faced danger, adapting to each challenge with cleverness. Sarnok was struck by her words. The Kytharian myths portrayed demons as monstrous beings, ruthless and barbaric. But here stood Ilara, embodying compassion. As the discussions continued, Sarnok observed how Ilara interacted with her crew. She listened intently, valuing their input. This was unlike the traditions of his own race. Kytharians demanded strength through silence and aggression. Yet here was Ilara, showing kindness and respect. Her laughter felt foreign yet warm. It struck an unusual chord in Sarnok's heart. Sarnok began to notice the similarities to the tales of the demons. The Kytharians believed these beings had once roamed the stars, fierce but also capable of mercy. Was their entire understanding flawed? The more he watched, the more Sarnok's conviction wavered. Perhaps the past was not as clear-cut as he had believed. After their first day together, Sarnok found himself restless. He wandered the ship's corridors, taking in the sights and sounds. The walls vibrated gently under his claws. He could feel the thrumming of the engines, a reminder of their powerful technology. But it felt different here, more organic, almost alive. He peeked into the crew's quarters, catching glimpses of their communal space, filled with makeshift art and memories. Each one told a story, rich with emotion. That night, Sarnok lay awake, the clangs of the factories on Kythara haunting him. He thought of the council's dismissal of the ancient archives. The myths, once mere stories to him, began to twist in his mind. Were they warnings or lessons? Perhaps the Kytharians were the true demons if they could not see the depth of strength that mercy provided. The next day, Ilara led her crew on a tour of the Kytharian warship. She marveled at the technological advancements. Her fingers brushed against the cold metal, a tangible representation of the Kytharian spirit. Sarnok admired her fascination. This was a human who understood the beauty in creation, not merely destruction. Suddenly, one of Ilara's crew members stumbled, knocking over a heavy tool. The sound echoed through the bay. Sarnok tensed, ready for a defensive response, but Ilara quickly moved to help. She knelt beside the crew member, offering encouragement, her face softening. The Kytharian warriors watched, eyes wide. This was not the behavior of a weak being. It was strength in its purest form, support, and unity amidst chaos. Sarnok stepped forward, his heart racing. He had to know more. What is this strength you show, this kindness? Ilara looked at him, her gaze unwavering. It is not weakness, Sarnok. Strength is not just about power. Sometimes it's about lifting others up. Her words hit Sarnok like the crack of thunder. He had never considered this perspective. In Kytharian culture, strength was defined by the blade and the army. Yet here, in the presence of these humans, he felt them redefining it. Days passed, filled with discussions, explorations, and shared meals. Sarnok found himself sharing more with Ilara. He spoke of his people's traditions and values, their history of wars and conquests. She listened, her expression thoughtful. In turn, she told him tales of human resilience, of how they had survived against insurmountable odds. Then, one afternoon, Sarnok and Ilara stood together on the ship's observation deck. They watched as stars glimmered beyond the viewport, vast and enticing. "Do you think we are truly so different?" Ilara asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Sarnok turned to her, his heart heavy with realization. They were not so different. Both faced challenges, both sought to thrive. But the Kytharians had built walls around their beliefs, refusing to see beyond their own history. As Sarnok glanced back at the stars, he felt hope blossom in his chest. Perhaps the demons of the ancient myths were not just monsters, but beings capable of much more. They could be explorers, survivors, and ultimately allies. In that moment, Sarnok vowed to question everything he had ever known. He would not return to Kythara with the same beliefs. He would bring back a message of unity. But first, he needed to convince the council. The path ahead was fraught with uncertainty, but the flicker of understanding between him and Ilara ignited a fire within him. The Kytharian archives spoke of demons, but Sarnok began to understand. Maybe the demons were not what they feared, but what they could not comprehend. The journey ahead would be long, but the essence of humanity, their adaptability, their fierce resolve, and their unexpected compassion may just hold the key to a new chapter for both their races. The Kytharian search team landed on the dusty surface of the nearby planet. In the air, a metallic tang mixed with the scent of ancient stone. Sarnok stepped out first, his segmented exoskeleton gleaming under the harsh light of the sun. The ground crunched beneath his feet, each step echoing like a distant drumbeat. Behind him, soldiers readied their weapons, their eyes scanning for threats. As they ventured deeper, the team discovered massive ruins. Towers of ancient stone loomed, their designs sharp and intricate. The Kytharians had never seen anything like it. Sarnok felt a prickle of curiosity. The structures were unlike their own brutalist designs. These were filled with symbolic carvings and flowing lines. They spoke of emotions, of stories, of life. Sarnok led the way into a vast hall. Its ceiling rose high above, supported by columns etched with flowing patterns. The air felt heavy, as if filled with whispers of the past. He sensed the weight of history pressing down. This place was not just stone. It held memories of those who had built it. The soldiers fanned out, their movements careful yet uneasy. One soldier, a young warrior named Kren, stumbled upon a circular mural. It depicted humans, their faces vibrant with emotion. Sarnok peered closer, trying to understand the artistry. What were those expressions? He felt an unfamiliar emotion stir within him, a desire to know. "Commander," Kren called, his voice low. "Look at this." Sarnok stepped closer. The mural portrayed humans engaging in various activities, exploring, building, and sharing moments. The depth of the imagery captivated him. This was not the mindless chaos the council had warned about. These humans shared a passion for life. They were not simply the demons of myth. They were explorers, creators. "What does this mean?" Kren asked, confusion etched across his face. He recalled the ancient warnings about demons and how they mirrored the human traits he had witnessed. Perhaps the legends were wrong. He spoke softly, almost to himself. There was more to these beings than mere monsters. The team continued through the ruins, collecting artifacts with care. They unwrapped delicate pieces, pottery, tools, and strange symbols. Each item revealed a glimpse into human culture. One artifact in particular caught Sarnok's eye. It was a small, intricately designed box. The edges were smooth, decorated with swirling patterns that seemed alive. He could almost feel the energy pulsing from it. Sarnok held the box in his hands. It felt warm, inviting. Could almost hear a whisper calling to him. This object told a story, a narrative about a people who had created beauty in their lives. Unlike the relentless machinery of Kythar, this box spoke of hope, dreams, and connection. Kren watched Sarnok with growing concern. "What are we doing here, Commander?" he asked. Sarnok looked around at the remnants of a once thriving civilization. "We are learning," he replied. "These ruins tell us about our past. They reveal another side of humanity." The team spent what felt like hours exploring. Every discovery reshaped Sarnok's understanding of the humans they had rescued. The Kytharian myths painted them as savage creatures, driven by violence. But this exploration revealed a different truth. Humans had a rich history filled with art, exploration, and resilience. They faced challenges with creativity. They created beauty amidst chaos. As they prepared to leave, Sarnok felt a weight in his chest. This new understanding of humanity sparked a flame within him. Could these creatures, once seen as threats, hold secrets to strength he had never considered? Returning to the ship, Sarnok shared his discoveries with the council. Their reactions were mixed. Some scoffed at the notion that these ruins mattered. Others felt a stir of doubt. How could demons have created something so profound? Commander Sarnok, a council member, spat. "What you found is irrelevant. Their history does not change that." "But it does change everything," Sarnok countered, his heart racing. What if the demons were more than we understood? What if they were not our enemies, but part of our shared history? Skepticism filled the room. Murmurs of discontent rose among the council members. They clung to their beliefs, dismissing Sarnok's revelations. In that moment, Sarnok felt a profound loneliness. He stood between two worlds, one that fiercely clung to honor through strength, and another that whispered of a future where understanding could triumph over fear. He envisioned a path forward, one where both races might explore their histories together. Back on the ship, Sarnok struggled to find clarity. He knew that knowledge could be a weapon or a bridge. He feared that the Kytharians might choose the former. What would it take for them to see the truth? Days passed, and whispers of conflict escalated among the Kytharians. The council remained steadfast in their belief that humans were a threat. Sarnok felt time slipping away. They had to act before fear led to violence. Visions of compassion danced in his mind, fueled by what he discovered in the ruins. He decided to return to the planet. With the crew of the human ship, he hoped to form an alliance, a bond built on knowledge rather than conquest. His heart raced at the possibilities. They stood at the edge of a new understanding. If they could see past the myths, they could rewrite their destinies together. This was not just about survival, it was about thriving as a united front. As he prepared for the journey, Sarnok felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps in the ruins, he would find not just answers, but a chance for a future where Kytharians and humans could share the stars, not as enemies, but as allies. The path ahead was fraught with challenges. But with every step, Sarnok felt the weight of his ancestors behind him, urging him forward, reminding him of the power of compassion and understanding. Thus, the journey continued, with the remnants of ancient ruins as a foundation for a new legacy. The air was thick with dust and ancient secrets as Ilara and her crew moved carefully through the ruins. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the crumbling walls. Each step echoed in the silence, a reminder of a past long forgotten. Familiar shapes surrounded them. The intricate designs, though worn, sparked something deep in Ilara's memory. As she traced her fingers over the stone, a sense of familiarity washed over her. These structures, they resemble the ancient styles we studied, she murmured, her mind racing. The architecture held a strange beauty, a blend of function and art that seemed to breathe history. Beside her, one of her crew members, Vega, knelt to examine an inscription. Ilara, look at this, he said, pointing at the faded glyphs. They were not just marks, they told a story of explorers, of ancient human travelers who had once roamed the stars. Ilara's heart raced. Do you think they could be linked to us? She asked, hope mingling with disbelief. The Kytharians had dismissed their legends as mere myths, but this was proof of a shared past. The realization lit a fire within her. Meanwhile, Sarnok stood at the entrance of the ruins. He had followed Ilara's crew but kept his distance. The Kytharian historian felt a mix of anxiety and excitement. His people had always seen humans as demons, as threats. Yet here was evidence that history intertwined them. The scent of damp stone mixed with the metallic tang of age, filling the air around him. Sarnok's mind raced with possibilities. Could the legends be wrong? Could they have misjudged their ancient enemies? As Ilara and her crew delved deeper into the ruins, they found remnants of technology that echoed their own. Old machines lay half buried in the ground, covered in dust, but still holding a hint of their past glory. The walls, decorated with murals, portrayed bustling scenes of trade and exploration, of two civilizations meeting in peace. This is where they met, Vega said, excitement bubbling in his voice. Our ancestors extended a hand to the Kytharians. Ilara nodded, absorbing the significance of each new discovery. The Kytharians had always claimed superiority, but this challenged everything they believed. The idea that both species had once walked the galaxy together stirred hope within her. They were not demons, but explorers like themselves. Sarnok shifted uneasily. He had seen the Kytharian Council dismiss humanity as weak, but now he faced a truth that could reshape his people's future. He approached Ilara, who was engrossed in a holographic display projecting the ancient scenes. These are places my ancestors visited, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Our explorers came here long ago. They shared knowledge, perhaps even friendship. Sarnok watched her, the light in her eyes captivating. And yet we have fought, he said, struggling with the weight of their shared history. Yes, Ilara replied, her gaze steady. But that doesn't have to define our future. We can learn from this. We can change. Behind them, the sound of footsteps echoed in the ruins. The Kytharian warriors, uneasy and curious, had followed Sarnok. They gathered at the entrance, eyes narrowed, wary of the humans' findings. A large warrior, his segmented armor glinting in the weak light, stepped forward. What sorcery is this? He demanded. These ruins do not belong to you. Ilara's heart pounded. They belong to all of us. Our ancestors walked here and we share this legacy. Sarnok moved between the Kytharian and Elara, sensing the rising tension. Wait, he said, raising a hand. We must listen. This could be the key to our understanding. The Kytharian warrior scoffed. Understanding, only strength and war guide them. Sarnok turned to face his fellow warrior. But they are also creators. It tells a different story, a story of exploration and discovery. We must reconsider. Elara stepped forward, courage shining in her eyes. Your history books spoke of demons. They speak of a partnership. She gestured to the murals, her voice rising. We are not enemies, but two races who sought knowledge. As the Kytharians listened, Sarnok felt the tension in the air shift. Doubts crept into their minds, and he seized the moment. We honor strength, but there is wisdom in understanding. Perhaps we have been wrong. The warriors exchanged glances, uncertainty written on their exoskeletons. They could see the truth in Sarnok's words, but centuries of tradition held them back. Elara met Sarnok's gaze, their shared determination palpable. If we are to break this cycle, we need to trust each other. You see your legends. They don't have to be our barriers. Sarnok nodded slowly, feeling his own heart begin to shift. This could change everything. With each revelation, hope wove itself into the fabric of their differences. The ruins connected their pasts, but it would take courage to acknowledge the truth. The group fell silent as they took in the gravity of the moment. Here, in this ancient place, lay the potential for peace. The air crackled with possibility, a pathway from conflict to understanding. As they stood, Elara and Sarnok exchanged glances, each feeling the weight of an uncertain future. They were not yet allies, but something new flickered between them, a fragile thread. Perhaps they could face the Kytharian Council together. Perhaps they could pave the way for a new legacy, one built on exploration, connection, and understanding. The silence stretched out, filled with unspoken hopes and fears. The warriors shifted, uncertainty still lingering in the air. But for the first time, they considered that the truth of the past might not lead them to war, but to something far more powerful, unity. The ruins stood as a testament, a reminder that history could change if they dared to embrace it. And as they prepared to leave, a new dawn awaited them beyond the horizon. The air crackled with tension as the Kytharian Council prepared to strike. General Varrock, his segmented exoskeleton shimmering with war paint, stood before the assembly. Guards clanked their weapons, the sound echoing through the grand chamber. The council's decision was swift and harsh. They would attack the humans. To them, these demons were a threat, a danger to their power. Sarnok felt the weight of their choice. He had witnessed humanity's resilience firsthand. Elara, the human leader, showed mercy even when it could have meant her doom. The thought gnawed at him. Her actions did not match the Kytharian view of strength. Elara could have easily fought, but chose diplomacy. This human spirit, this adaptability, mirrored the ancient warnings. The demons of myth were not monsters, but explorers like them misunderstood and misrepresented. As the council shouted heated arguments, Sarnok could only think of the ruins they had uncovered. The artistic designs etched into the stone spoke of a people who felt deeply. Humankind did not simply conquer, they created and cherished. He wanted to share this knowledge, but felt the council's fear wrapping around him like a vice. Elara stood at the edge of the Kytharian war camp, heart pounding. She sensed the storm brewing. The metallic scent of heated engines filled the air, blending with the pungent aroma of oil and rust. She had come to understand the Kytharians better. They were warriors, but their strength was bound to honor and tradition. It was a bond she now respected, even if it felt foreign. Suddenly, a shadow loomed over her. Sarnok approached, his movements tense yet purposeful. They had only moments to communicate. With urgency, he conveyed the truth of the archives. The legends speak of humanity, of explorers. We were deceived. The emotion in his voice resonated with her. There was a bridge forming between their worlds, a chance to understand past grievances. But the drumbeats of war grew louder. Varrok's forces readied their heavy war machines, dark and angular, towering over the camp like looming giants. The ground trembled beneath their weight. Sarnok glanced back, fear knotting his stomach. If they struck now, the chance for peace would vanish like smoke in the wind. As Ilara prepared her crew, she recalled the artifacts they had discovered. Each piece of history spoke not of rage, but of the curiosity that drove humanity to explore. She understood now. They were the very demons the Kytharians feared. The clash began with a deafening roar. Kytharian war machines unleashed their firepower, bright blasts illuminating the darkening sky. Ilara shouted orders, guiding her crew to maneuver swiftly. But then, a flash of brilliance erupted from her ship. A new weapon, engineered from desperation and necessity, tore through the Kytharian ranks. It struck a colossal war machine, sending pieces of metal raining down like shooting stars. Sarnok's breath caught in his throat. This display of human ingenuity was unlike anything he had seen. It shattered his expectations and his people's arrogance. In that moment, he realized the true strength of humanity. It was not merely in brute force, but in the ability to innovate, to adapt, and to change. The battlefield transformed. Kytharian warriors hesitated, confusion etched on their faces. They questioned their mission, uncertain if their honor lay in fighting or understanding. Sarnok seized the moment. He shouted for peace, his voice echoing above the chaos. "Look, the demons are not our foes. We can learn from them." But chaos reigned. The clatter of weapons, the crack of energy blasts, and the cries of battle filled the air. In the midst of it all, Sarnok fought his way toward his fellow warriors, determined to sway them from destruction. He could not let fear dictate their fate. Ilara, too, moved through the chaos, her heart racing. She saw Sarnok fighting for his people, trying to find a way through the chaos. She ducked beneath a falling structure, her instincts kicking into gear. If they survived this battle, they could find a path forward together. The tide turned suddenly. As Kytharian warriors hesitated, Ilara's crew fought harder, knowing they were fighting for more than survival. They fought for a future, a chance to rewrite their shared history. In the midst of the turmoil, Sarnok finally reached Varrok, desperately seeking to change the tide of battle. "General," he shouted, his voice almost lost in the cacophony. "If we fight today, we lose tomorrow. The demons are our kin. We must strive for understanding." Varrok faltered, caught between pride and fear. The weight of history pressed down on him like the heavy machinery around them. In that instant, the harsh reality of their past clashed with the hope of a new future. The echoes of war faded into a tense silence as Sarnok's plea hung in the air. Would they embrace the truth, or would they allow old myths to define their fate? This pivotal moment encapsulated their long-lost legacy. The demons were not merely the monsters of history. They were explorers, warriors of the spirit, just as Kytharians were. The battle was not just for survival, it was for a shared destiny. The air was thick with tension, but it was different now. The echoes of battle had faded, leaving behind a heavy silence. Sarnok and Ilara stood amidst the remnants of conflict, their hearts racing with the weight of their shared discoveries. Kytharians had fought fiercely, believing humans to be the demons of legend. But now they faced a new truth. Sarnok, with his segmented exoskeleton glinting in the fading light, felt the need for change. The harsh clang of Kytharian machinery had given way to a new rhythm. The sound of cooperation, not conflict, lingered in the air. Ilara, eyes bright with determination, mirrored his resolve. Together they would forge a new path. "Peace," Sarnok thought as he surveyed the remnants of the battleground. Pieces of defeated war machines lay scattered, a testament to misunderstanding. The Kytharian council remained cautious, their pride wounded. Yet Sarnok's voice rang strong, echoing with newfound clarity. He spoke of shared histories and the voyages that had once united them. The scent of burning metal still clung to the air, a reminder of the chaos. But now it mixed with the fresh promise of collaboration. Sarnok urged the council to listen, to look beyond their fears. There was strength in unity. Elara stepped forward, her presence commanding. She spoke of humanity's spirit, of resilience and hope. The Kytharians watched, torn between their ingrained beliefs and the undeniable evidence of shared experiences. The tales of human explorers, once dismissed, now resonated with the council. Slowly, reluctant nods began to ripple through the assembly. The harshness of their past began to soften as the idea of coexistence took root. Sarnok felt a warmth spread through him. They were ready to embrace a future together. As both species prepared for their new journey, the air buzzed with excitement. The galaxy lay ahead, vast and unexplored. Together, they would dive into its mysteries, forging bonds stronger than steel. The Kytharians and humans, once enemies, now stood on the brink of a new era. A legacy of peace awaited them, bound by understanding and the courage to change.